All right, we're back for 7, 8, 9, and 10 for the quiz review. Had to get myself some vitamin water. I like the triple X, my favorite. And I like the Power C also, but not as much as the triple X here. And I don't even get endorsed or paid to to promote this vitamin water. All right, next, number 7. You might recognize this as the difference of two squares, or the difference of perfect squares. What do we mean by perfect squares? Well, at the beginning, we have a perfect square because x squared is x times x. At the end, we have a perfect square, 81, because 81 is 9 times 9. And there's a difference in the middle. Difference means subtraction. I'm going to erase that. And I'm just going to show you that we do something special when we have a perfect square in the front, a perfect square in the back, and a minus sign right in between them. If you look at the next one, number 8, let's recognize also 16 is a perfect squared, x squared is a perfect squared, 9 is a perfect square, and we have a minus in the middle. So these are special cases, difference of perfect squares or difference of two squares. When you see this, you throw parentheses up right away, two parentheses. We're going to put a plus in the middle of one. We're going to put a minus in the middle of the other. At the beginning, when I say the beginning, in these spots here, the beginning of each parentheses, you put the square root of the beginning here. When I say beginning, I mean the first part to the left of the minus sign. So the square root of x squared is x. X times x is x squared. The square root of 81 comes down to the back side, and that's 9. So you have x plus 9 and x minus 9. For the next one, the square root of 16 is 4. The square root of x squared, that goes at the beginning also. Because it's before the parentheses, it goes at the beginning of each. Now the 9, I didn't mean parentheses, before the subtraction sign I meant. Now the 9 is after the subtraction sign, so that goes at the end, and it's going to be 3 times 3 because the square root of 9 is 3. Now we do have to set these equal to 0. X plus 9 equals 0. X minus 9 equals 0. I trust you can solve those by now. 4x plus 3 equals 0. 4x minus 3 equals 0. I'll help you out with these. Minus 3 minus 3. 4x equals negative 3. Divide by 4. And we're going to get x equals negative 3 over 4. On this side, we're going to get x equals 3 over 4. So we do have two answers on each of these. And I'll highlight them in green. We have 3/4, negative 3/4, negative 9, and positive 9. That's one way to solve those. There's another way to solve these, and I'll go over it with you guys. And that is, I'm going to erase all this. So if you want to keep this up, pause it. If not, I'm going to erase this because we're going to show the second way to do this. Let me clear the ink. Okay. Second way to do this is to get the x squared all alone and then solve for x. So I'm going to highlight the x squareds in both. And we're going to get them all alone. When I say all alone, I mean all alone on the same side as the equal. Now there's something else on the side with the x squared that we want to get rid of. And that's the negative 81. We're going to plus 81 to both sides. Our next line is going to be x squared, that comes down, equals 81. Now we want to solve for x. So how do we get from x squared to x? In order to get from x squared to x, we take a square root. But to do something on one side of the equation, we also have to do it on the other side of the equation. So x equals, the square root of 81 is going to be a positive or a negative 9. So the answer before we had was x equals negative 9 and x equals positive 9. And that's the same exact thing that we have right here. X equals plus 9 and x equals minus 9. Let's do that same method over on this side. We're going to get that x squared alone, and there's two things that we have to get rid of that's on the same side. We have to get rid of this negative 9, and we have to get rid of this 16. Now, we're not going to get rid of the 16 first because it's connected to the x squared. So let's get rid of that negative 9 and move it on over to the other side. We take the opposite and do plus 9 to both sides. Our next line, 16x squared comes down, equals a positive 9. We still want to get rid of the 16, but now the 16 and the x squared, they are connected to each other, which means they're multiplying. We want to keep the x squared, and we just want to get rid of the 16. So we divide by 16. 16s cancel out. We get x squared equals 9 over 16. We don't want x squared. We want to get x. So how do we get x? We take the square root. We take the square root. We take the square root. When you take the square root of a fraction, you take the square root of the top and the bottom, and we get x equals plus or minus 3 over 4, because the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. All right, let's get to those last two. 5x squared minus 20 equals 0. You can do this a couple of ways as well. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to get the x squared all alone, just like I did the last time. I could take out a GCF as well. I'd rather not show you that one right now. If you want to know about it, if you try it and you want to take the GCF out, you can. But I'm going to do this by getting the x squared all alone. We want to get this x squared all alone, which means we want to get rid of this negative 20 and also the positive 5. Which one do we get rid of first? If you said negative 20, you are correct. How do we get rid of a negative 20 and move it over to the other side? I didn't like that line. We do a positive 20 plus 20 to both sides. Next line, we bring down the 5x squared. We have a positive 20 over on the other side. Next, we don't want the 5 there anymore because we want the x squared all alone. How do we get rid of the 5? It's connected to the x squared. How do we get rid of it? We divide by 5 on both sides. We get x squared equals 4. I don't want x squared. I want x. How do I get from x squared to x? I take the square root, but what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side, and I get x equals plus or minus 2. Next and last, number 10. We want to get the square alone. What is being squared? This whole thing is being squared. We want this to be alone, which means we have to get rid of this minus 2 first. How do we get rid of a minus 2 and send it over to the other side? We're going to do the opposite because we want it to cancel out and make 0. So we plus 2, and then we also have to plus 2 to the other side. X plus 6, still in parentheses, squared, equals 25. How do I get rid of a square? I take the square root and I'm left with exactly what I have. If I take the square root of x plus 6, I'm going to be left with x plus 6 just by itself, not squared. And that's going to equal the square root of 25. That's going to equal 5. That might be confusing, so let me explain. If you had 5 in parentheses and you square it, what would the square root of this be? Well, 5 squared is 25, and the square root of 25 equals 5. So whatever you're squaring, in this case, we were squaring x plus 6. Whatever you're squaring, when you take the square root, you're going to be left with whatever that was without the square. Hope that made a little sense. All right. Next, we do not want this 6 there. We have to get rid of this 6 because we just want the x to be there. How do we get rid of a plus 6 and move it over to the other side? We're going to subtract 6. Sorry, one thing I had to say, which many of you guys might have realized already. When I took the square root of 25, it's not just a positive 5. It's a plus or a minus 5. Very important. As soon as you take the square root of a number, you're going to be left with a plus or a minus. Now, this 6, when we subtract it, it goes right after the equal sign before the plus minus. So we have, next line, x equals, because 6 minus 6 cancels out, and right on the other side, we have negative 6 plus or minus, or plus and minus 5. And we're going to do these separately. X equals negative 6 plus 5, and also x equals negative 6 minus 5. The answer to this first one, negative 6 plus 5, is negative 1. The answer to the second one, negative 6 minus 5, is negative 11. And that is your final two answers. X equals minus 1, x equals negative 11. Well, I hope you had as much fun at this as I did. It was pretty awesome, I must say, for me. And please ask lots and lots of questions, or any questions, or some question, even if it's not related to math. I don't know, just to let me know you're watching. Have a great day. Peace. I'm out of here.